Hello and welcome back to math class. I'm hoping you guys all remember to send your division problem story to your teachers. You got to actually write your own problems. Today we're going to do a little bit more, but we're going to go a little bit faster. We're not going to take as much time as we did yesterday. So today, if you notice, the division problem that I have at the top has a whole number divided by a fraction, and that is called what we call partitive division. So we're going to go ahead and write that right here so that we can remember that. Okay, so as you can see, I wrote down what partitive division is. Partitive division is where we have a whole number, kind of like we have here 50, and we divide it by a fraction, 2/3, and the quotient will be larger than our whole number. You can see I kind of stressed larger. And so most of the time when we divide things, our answer is usually smaller. So for example, if I have one candy bar and I divide it into halves, I get a smaller answer. But this time we're going to get a larger answer. So we have 50 and we're dividing it by 2/3, and our quotient here is going to be a larger number. It's going to be bigger than 50. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to write here that we are doing partitive and interpretation. Okay? So remember, if you recall yesterday, we kind of drew some models, and we're going to kind of do those things together. So if you recall previously, what we're going to do is we're going to make our fraction, which is here 2/3. So I'm going to make 2/3 like this, and I'm going to color the 2 out of the 3. And if we recall, the part that was colored, this here equals 50. Well, if I have to take 50 and separate it into these two boxes, this box is 25, this box is 25, which means this box is 25. So what do I have here for my total? 25 3 times. My answer to me looks like it should be 75. So down here where it says find the answer, let's do it how you and I are used to practicing with our keep, change, flip. So I'm going to go ahead and write it like this. I'm going to keep the 50, change. I'm going to flip my 2/3 to 3 halves. I'm going to multiply across the top and multiply across the bottom. I know that this is top heavy, so I have here 150, and I have to divide it by 2. 2 does not go into 1, but it does go into 15 7 times, which is 14. Bring down my 0. 2 times 5 is 10. So my answer is 75. Okay, so if you notice, I started with 50, I divided it into 2/3, and I ended up coming with a larger number. All right, so I'm not going to have you write down the rest unless your teacher wants you to, but yesterday what we did is I had us choose a unit, so I decided to write a story about miles, and my story is Ella has ridden 50 miles during her bicycle race and is 2/3 from the finish line. How long is the race? Well, she's ridden 50 miles, okay, and she's gone 2/3 of the race. Obviously, my final answer must be larger than 50 because I want to know how long the whole race, and she's only gone 50. Okay, so that kind of helps me realize, did I do my division problem correctly? If I would have flipped it the other way, I would have gotten a different answer, and that would not have made sense in my problem. Okay, so go ahead and flip over to the next page, and we're going to move actually down. We're going to look at example 2 again. So we're going to do partitive interpretation again, because we know that we're taking a whole number and we're dividing by a fraction. We're going to draw our model. Remember, our model is we're going to look at this fraction here, which is 3/8. So I want you to go ahead and I want you to make a nice long rectangular box, and I want you to break it into 8 pieces and color 3. So I have my 8. I'm going to color in 3. I know that these 3 pieces right here have to equal the 45. I have to take 45 and I have to divide it into 3 boxes. Those of you that know your division and multiplication facts know that that means I'm going to have 15 here in each box. Obviously, if I'm going to have all of these 15s, my final answer is going to be larger than 45. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to flip our book over here, and we're actually going to find our answer. So let's go ahead and write 45 divided by 3/8, and let's go ahead and see if we can solve that problem. Keep, multiply, and flip. Now some of you are seeing why sometimes models might be easier, because you're going to have some large numbers here. Well, since we're doing this problem together, I'm going to go ahead and tell you that 45 times 8 happens to be 360, and 1 times 3 is 3. This is obviously top heavy, so we're going to actually do some dividing. So I'm going to take 360 divided by 3. 3 goes into 3 once. 3 goes into 6 2 times. Then I still have a 0, so I have here the answer 120. So my answer here should be 120. So today I actually had a few students who are actually starting to be able to notice that they can actually do a little bit of reducing before they find their problem. So if you look up here, I'm going to write down the same problem one more time right here. We learned last week that we can actually do some reducing if we have the same number on top and the same number on bottom. Well, now we can also start looking at the fact that if we know our facts and know our different factors, we can also notice that sometimes we might have a number that's in the numerator and the denominator that can be reduced by the same factor. So if you notice on the bottom, I only have a 1 and then I have a 3. Well, 1 is as low as it's going to go, but I noticed 3 actually can be reduced with the 45. And so if I notice 3 goes into both of these. 3 goes into 3 one time, and 3 goes into 45 15 times. Okay, now if you're not sure how to do this, we're going to start working on this skill a little bit more, so don't worry. If I still solve my problem though, if I take 15 times 8, that equals 120, and 1 times 1 is 1. Well, 120 divided by 1. If you notice, I still have the same answer as what I did up here. Okay, so that's what's nice about math, is you can solve it different ways and you can still come up with the same final answer. Okay, well, we're not going to write another story today. So I want you to go ahead and turn your page for me. Okay, and all we're going to look at here is, let's look at this. We have a whole number and it's divided by a fraction. Do you think our quotient is going to be larger than 45 or smaller? Well, you should already know that your answer over here should be larger than 45. Okay, your answer should be larger than 45. And I'm going to tell you that the answer for this one actually is 75. Okay, 75 is larger than 45. Let's look at the next one. If I have 100 and I'm dividing it by a fraction, remember my answer here is probably going to be, or it should be, larger than 100. So let's go ahead and solve that one and see. Keep, multiply, and then let's flip like this. We can take 100 times 5, which we know is 500. 2 times 1 is 2. This is top heavy. Some of you already know that you could divide 500 and you already have your answer. I'm going to go ahead and subtract and multiply here. And we will notice that, sure enough, I have the answer 250. So partitive division problems are when you have a whole number dividing by a fraction. Your answer should always be larger than what our original number is. So we're actually going to go ahead and flip our book over. because this lesson's actually very simple as well. We are not going to do everything that's in it, but I want you to go ahead and write down a few things for me. So you guys already know how we solve this problem. We know that we do something called keep, multiply, flip. Well, that flip actually is called your reciprocal. So what I'd like for you to do is I'd like for you to write up here in your notes, flip, and I kind of want you to put an arrow here knowing what the mathematical term is. It's actually called reciprocal. So we actually keep this, we multiply, and we take the reciprocal of 2/5. So when I ask you for the reciprocal, you know that that means we're going to just flip. So how do we solve this problem? We keep, we multiply, we find the reciprocal of this. 3 times 5 is 15, and 4 times 2 is 8. But what do we notice? We notice that this is a top-heavy fraction, and because it's a top-heavy fraction, we need to come down here and we need to do some division. 8 cannot go into 1, but 8 can go into 15 one time. 15 minus 8 is 7, and my answer is 1 7/8. Okay? 1 7/8 is the same as this. Now, make sure you have this written down in your notes, because on your exit ticket, it's going to actually ask you for the reciprocal of something. So down here where it says we're going to make some notes, I want you to go ahead and I want you to write what you and I have been doing, which is called keep, change, flip. And I want you to start thinking about the fact that actually what we are doing is we are multiplying, right? That's our changing. And we are flipping, which is called our reciprocal. And we're going to actually write here multiplicative inverse. Okay, we are going to take and we are keep changing, flipping, and the mathematical term is multiplicative inverse. Okay, so once you have that written down, we're going to flip over to the next page. And we're only going to look at 2 problems here. Okay, we are going to solve these by keeping our 1/4. We are going to do the multiplicative inverse. We're going to multiply, and we are going to do the reciprocal of 2/3. Remember, reciprocal means flip. And we're going to solve, and our answer is 3/8. Now, can 3/8 be reduced? If you look at your factor sheet, you will notice that 3 and 8, the only factors they have in common are 1. So this is my final answer. And we're finished with that one. Okay, go down to example number 3. We're going to do the same thing with problem number 3. We're going to do keep, change, flip. Keep, change. We're going to do the reciprocal. That means we're going to flip it. 2 times 4 is 8, and 3 times 3 is 9. Is this top heavy? No, it is not top heavy. And so I don't need to divide, and 8 and 9, the only factors they have in common are 1, so this is my final answer as well. All right, so before I let you go and finish your exit ticket, I want you to write reciprocal right here. Okay, so we have our reciprocal. I'm going to give you a number, and I want you to write the reciprocal of it. Okay, so if I would give you the number 1/3, what would the reciprocal be? The reciprocal would be 3/1, which we know is also 3. What if I would give you the fraction 2/8, and I would ask you for the reciprocal? The reciprocal would be 8/2, and most of you know that 8/2 is actually the same thing as the answer 4. How about the reciprocal of 2/7? The reciprocal of 2/7 would be 7/2. What if I asked you for the reciprocal of 4? How would you flip the number 4? Most of you know that you would flip the number 4 by putting 1/4. Go ahead and cross out this equal sign. Mrs. Hawk should not have put that because they actually are not equal. They're actually reciprocals. But I want you to be aware of what reciprocals are, because on your exit ticket, I'm going to ask you to give me the reciprocal of certain whole numbers and fractions.